Welcome everybody to the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. Again, it is me, Sal Salvador, Mr. Boxing Guru. Again, welcome. That music, of course, you heard was from Los Anaya, Losnaya. You can listen to them wherever good music is heard, whether it's Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, wherever it is. I'm sure you'll find them. It was Canelo Jacobs fight week, and we'll get into that in a bit. First, let's talk about the undercard because I thought that was very exciting. We got to see a lot of what Golden Boy has up and coming soon. First, let's talk about Joseph Diaz. Joseph Diaz versus Fonseca. It was a very interesting fight, and the reason why I say interesting because you know that JoJo most of the time, what he does is he gives you that, whether it's 10 or 12 round, but he gives you a good decision. This wasn't the case. Fonseca actually got stopped in the 7th round. I think, if I'm not mistaken, JoJo hurt him in the 6th, and in the 7th, he finally got rid of him. It shows that maybe you shouldn't be touching JoJo in the chin when it comes to the media workouts or whatever it was, that were the media workouts, weigh-in, whatever it was. But nonetheless, the story for Joseph Diaz, was not so much versus Fonseca, because again, versus Fonseca, he did extraordinary. But versus a Farmer. I think that's the fight to make. Look, they're both fighting within the same network. Farmer, of course, fights for a Matchroom, and Joseph for Golden Boy. But I think it's a fight that should be made. I think it's. I don't think anyone is dying to fight either one of those guys. I think the fight, if it gets made, it's a very tactical fight, sort of like the main event. I mean, both of these guys are blue chippers, and I think it'll be an interesting fight. It'll be a fight where hopefully Joseph Diaz can get a belt, but Farmer is a beast within his own right. I mean, look, he's a champion for a reason. I think he has a lot to give. He has a lot to fight for. So I don't know. More than anything, this fight with Joseph Diaz or this whole fight weekend, that's what got me excited over the fight, was the fact that maybe in the near future we could see Tevin Farmer versus Joseph Diaz Jr. But as far as Fonseca, I mean, look, Fonseca is what he is. He was there to get his ass whooped, but Joseph, worked him for a few rounds, then got rid of him. But the co-main event of the weekend, the co-main event was Vergil Ortiz Jr. versus Mauricio Herrera. Look, Mauricio Herrera has been fighting with the who's who of 147. Now, Mauricio Herrera was that guy they gave Danny Garcia a hell of a fight that a lot of people actually said Danny Garcia lost. Benavidez Jr. gave him a war. A lot of people don't seem to remember the war versus Mauricio Herrera versus the Russian that I can't remember his name right now, but the one that gave Bradley a hell of an ass whooping. But Herrera's that guy that can give you angles, that can give you rounds, that even past his prime is a guy that's going to give you an honest work. Well, on Saturday, I don't know if he was really that past his prime. Was Vergil Ortiz really that guy? Because Vergil Ortiz, from my understanding, he doesn't have more than 12 fights, and each and every one of those fights are won by knockout. So he's never left it in the hands of the judges. He's obviously, most of these fights have been pre-designed for him to knock folks out. But in my opinion, the competition hasn't been as lenient as it has for maybe some of his stablemates, like the Ryan Garcias of the world. I think they've been stiff enough for him to. They've been fights where he should win, but they haven't been fights where necessarily he should win by knockout. And the fact that he's knocked everybody else that he's faced, including the rugged and the long-lasting Herrera, that shows a lot. I think prospects like him, like again Vergil Ortiz, like Teofimo Lopez, like Carlos from up north, Carlos Valderas. These are the guys. These are the real blue chippers that are out there. These are the guys that didn't come in making a splash. maybe in the first two fights, but these are the guys that are going to be very solid. In my opinion, Virgin, I've said it many times, he reminds me of a young Vargas. I think he's very cool, calm, and collective, and overall nice kid. I can't wait to see him again. I hope we get to see a lot of them. And look, man, Texas got a monster, man. I hope they continue to show him in our faces, and we continue to see great things from him. Now let's talk about Canelo versus Jacobs. Canelo versus Jacobs, that fight for the middleweight supremacy. That fight for all the belts that are out there, minus the boo-boo one, because, well, it's boo-boos. A couple of questions that pop up as the fight went on, or even after. And I get these questions a lot, and for some reason they're on DM. So, people tend to ask me, "Was the fight good?" In my opinion, the fight was great. It was a very solid fight. Look, when you put the best guys that are at that division, you're not gonna get your Rocky type of fights. You're gonna get two guys that are very good, that you really can't look great against. Was it an entertaining fight? Maybe not so much. But again, it was two fights that are very good. Jacobs being a very, very big guy for 160 pounds. Again, there was a reason why he couldn't make that mandatory 170 pounds, which, again, I won't really get into it, but I think it's a ridiculous rule for a fighter to weigh in, then weigh in again the day after the fight. Either you got to pick a battle, or if you make the 160, you make the 160, then hydrate to whatever you can. That's the whole advantage of weighing in the day before. Again, was it entertaining? It was okay. It was okay fight. It was a good fight. Now, what did this fight do for Canelo Alvarez? I think it solidified his 160 run, not only by beating the guy that has a belt, the other guy that has a belt, and that's somewhat entertaining, because the thing about Danny Jacobs is, the thing is, he's a very nice guy. He's one of the good guys. One of the guys that you want to root for, regardless of his skill or level or whatnot. He's that guy that defied, I guess, the PBC and said, you know what, I'm gonna go look for another promoter, look elsewhere, and see what else I could find. And I think he's done a great job, because look, he's made a ton of money. He's had a great career, and again, look, he ended up fighting Canelo. So that's always a good thing, that puts a couple of bucks in your pocket, and you end up living a good life after. Now, again, as far as for Canelo, what does a fight do for him? I think, again, it cements him as a legit middleweight champion. Fighting a guy like Danny Jacobs was one of the other guys that people said, oh, you know what? Golovkin might have lost to this guy. The fight versus Golovkin for Danny Jacobs was a lot tougher, in my opinion, a lot closer. I think I had that fight 8-2 or 9-3, 9-3, if I'm not mistaken. I had given like 2 or 3 rounds to Jacobs in the Golovkin fight. Or four rounds, I'm sorry, if I'm not mistaken. So it was a tighter fight. There was a lot of rounds that could have gone to either guy when it came to Golovkin Jacobs, but this fight was a bit, in my opinion at least, a bit more decisive. I think, if anything, I gave Jacobs 2, maybe 3 rounds. And 3 rounds, that's really pushing it, and I think that's because most of us not necessarily they wanted to see Jacobs win, but we wanted to see a fair decision. Is that what we got? Absolutely. I think we got a great decision. I think there's no reason to second guess the judges in this one. I think it was a great fight. So, look, overall, this was a great event, great fight, entertaining, yes, to a certain point. To the casual fan, of course not. They're going to say that Canelo did this, that Jacobs ran, or whatnot. But I think overall hardcore boxing fans are very content. Now, a lot of the ones that sign in now, the question is, do you keep the zone? Is it worth the subscription? In my opinion, it is, because we're always getting fights. I think if you did what I think most intelligent boxing fans did for the weekend, you bought the whole. You bought it for the year. $100. So what? It's $100. That's what you would have paid for pay per view. And on top of that, you get all these fights. So, in my opinion, it's a great thing. Now, another thing is, did it feel like a pay per view event? In my opinion, up to like maybe Wednesday, it didn't feel like a pay per view. When it actually felt like a pay per view, when I started seeing everybody, show up, you started seeing the Americanelos, the Carlitos, and if you guys don't know who that is, Americanelo is that guy that pretends to be Canelo, and the fight fans and the grown men that live vicariously through their children and push their children into going to events just to get that autograph that's really for them. So those type of folks, they're the regulars. They're the ones that usually you see at these fights, and they were there. That's when you started saying, okay, it is fight week. It is an event. I do want to be there. And I talked to a couple of friends that I was going to have over my house, and I actually had over my house for the fight. And we were getting the itch to just say, fuck it. Let's go to the fights. Let's blow this. I don't need to throw a fight party in my house. I need to be at the fight. And I think Thursday, Friday, especially Saturday morning, I was like, God damn, I need to be over there. I didn't. I stayed because I already had promised people that I was going to host a fight, and it was a great event, a lot of great people, a lot of great food. But it definitely felt like a pay-per-view event. I wanted to be there. Now, how did I score it? I went back and looked at the fight today, rewatched it. I think I gave Jacobs 3 rounds, and that's about it. Again, I'm not saying Jacobs had a bad performance. I just think Canelo, plain and simple, appointed him. It wasn't a bad loss. I don't think Jacobs. There's nothing to take away from Jacobs. I think he did a hell of a fight. Up to his abilities, and again, he did nothing to be ashamed of. Just the better man won. I don't think he lost a step when it came down to this fight. I thought Jacobs coming in the fight, he was gonna look a little. I thought Canelo was gonna be able to stop him, just because I don't think Jacobs has enough legs underneath him anymore. But hey, he stood in there. He fought the good fight. He fought a fight to go to decision. He didn't want. It almost felt like he didn't want to win the fight. He knows that those type of decisions go to Canelo even if they're close. So he didn't make a clear argument for boxing fans to say, you know what, they robbed this kid. So he plain and simple lost the fight. Now, the other question that keeps coming around is Canelo a pound for pound fighter? In my opinion, yes. In my opinion, he was before this fight. But he's not the guy at the division. Look, I think to be a pound for pound fighter, you have to not only beat the guys in your division, you have to go up and fight guys in your division. You have to dominate guys in your division. I think there's one clear guy, even if I'm not his biggest fan. I think it's Lomachenko. And the reason why I say Loma is because he obviously beat the smaller guys, the 126ers. And he obviously beat the guys at 130 and knocking them down. And now he's at 135. Even if he's fighting guys that aren't in his level, but they are, top-rated guys at 135, and he's still fucking them up. He's still knocking them down. He's still getting rid of them in a very exciting fashion. And I think Loma, as he's progressing as a professional fighter, he's getting a little better. He's learning how to sit down on his punches a little more. He's learning how to get rid of the opponent. Again, you got to think about this. This is a career amateur fighter, not a pro fighter, but an amateur. Here in the U.S., if you're 18, you're ready for the pros. They throw you to the pros, and you got to figure it out, kid. Loma spent most of his life as an amateur fighter, and the way he's progressing, the way he's been moved up, and only what, I don't even know if he has 10 fights, 10, 12 fights, but to do so much and so dominant for such little time in the pros, that's very impressive. He is the number one guy. I have no problem putting Canelo at number 3. Of course, right below Crawford, just because of how dominant Crawford was, going into 140, at 135, 140, now 147, beating two solid guys. Khan doesn't count because fuck, come on, it is Amir Khan, nicest guy in the world, but brittle ass chin. But yeah, Canelo is a pound for pounder, guys. That remember, Canelo came from an era where it was him and Chavez. They were battling to see who was the better fighter from Mexico. A lot of people doubted Canelo up till sometimes even up to when he fought Chavez Jr. Not only did he turn out he was a better fighter than Chavez Jr., but he's almost one of the best fighters in the world, pound for pound. So kudos to Canelo for such a beautiful career so far, and he's still a baby. I don't think he hasn't hit 30 yet, so that in itself is very impressive. Another thing people ask me is, what is wrong with Marquez? Look, I think in Mexico there's a big culture gap, where maybe here in the States we call it a racism. I think in Mexico it's almost classism. It's always the dark versus the light-skinned Mexican. I think I kind of made fun of it before when it came to, there was this lady that made a movie. I think her name was Yalitza, made a movie named Rome. Black and white. I thought it was a horrible movie. But I keep making fun of her because she looked a bit indigenous, sort of like Marquez. But it's the running joke where the dark make fun of the light. And again, it not only happens in the U.S., but it happens everywhere. If I'm not mistaken, it happens in Asian countries as well, where the darker get made fun of. The lighter you are, it gets the better. It doesn't make it right, but it does happen. I think Marquez has a little saltiness, and so does a lot of Mexicans. That's why when you talk to Mexicans, and they say they don't like Canelo, and they can give you a reason, if you look at their skin complexion, they might be a little dark. and that's where that hate comes from. That indigenous person doesn't really like that light-skinned Mexican. And vice versa. You always call them the pinches indios patarrajas. Always an ongoing joke. The indigenous folks do not like the light-skinned folks. Vice versa. So that's what it is. Marquez has always been salty versus Canelo. Marquez has always been salty versus a lot of people. Great fighter, one of the greatest of this past generation. But there's a Canelo era, and I think, to be fair to the public, I don't think Marquez should be commentating on anything Canelo related. Him or Nacho Beristain, there's this dislike for Canelo. That's very obvious too. For Marquez to sit down and say,
bueno, es que la pelea yo la miré muy cerrada y bueno, pues el contraataque del Daniel Jacobs estaba medio difícil, entonces no le podía meter las manos al Canelo y por eso yo, en mi opinión, le di la pelea a Canelo.
Translated, he gave the fight to Danny Jacobs, and I said Canelo in Spanish, I'm sorry, but he gave the fight to Danny Jacobs. Again, Danny Jacobs knows he didn't win that fight. There was no pushback from him. So yeah, Marquez is a little out there, a little indigenous, a little out there, and just a little nuts. Now, what is next for Canelo? Look, I think the right thing to do isn't necessarily the most popular one. The right thing to do is to go and get that belt from Bubu Andrade, or Andre, whatever the fuck his name is. But the fact of the matter is that's horrible TV. That'll hurt the ratings. That'll increase the criticism of Canelo. That Canelo can do this, Canelo can do that. The fact of the matter that a fight with Daniel Jacobs versus Bubu Andre, it's a horrible fight. Again, regardless of who wins, if Bubu wins, great. If Canelo wins, great. But it's a horrible fight to make. Stylistically speaking, it's a dreadful fight. It's a fight that I, as a boxing fan do not want to see. I get it. The purists of the sport will say, "Well, you know what? It's great for the sport. People aren't intelligent. It's a hit and not get hit fight." But the fact of the matter is that both guys are natural counterpunchers, and it's just not a fight that's gonna bring interest. Give me a different fighter. Bring somebody from 154, somebody that's aggressive. Move them up to 168. There's Benavidez at 168. There's so many other fighters that you could bring up to. Again, there's been talk about Errol Spence going up in weight again. That's Errol's is a natural welterweight. Again, give him some time, and I think it'll be a great fight. But there's so many other choices for Canelo that are not related to Boo Boo, and I get it. He wants to unify the belt, but sometimes it's just not the best thing to do. It's not a legacy thing. It's an entertainment thing. You want to be remembered for those fights. Do you think I remember Canelo for beating the Cuban in Island de Lara? No, I detested that fight. I was bored out of my mind. I was drinking coffee by the 7th round. I do not want to watch those type of fights. Give me a fight where they're going to throw a lot of madras, a lot of chingados, a lot of blows, and we're going to be entertained as a whole as boxing fans. I want to talk about this fight the next day to my casual fans, to my coworkers. Fights like Boo Boo Andrade, I don't want to see at all. I don't make me want to cancel my DAZN. That's the last thing DAZN wants, for people to say, man, fuck this. Look at the type of fights that you guys are giving me. Bullshit fights, a guy that's flinching to death, a guy that's fainting for 8 rounds, and somehow, some way, threw 10 punches in a round. And that's going to be both Canelo and Boo Boo. I do not want to see that fight. Other than that, what happened? Oh, there's a bunch of other fights. Again, we're not really going to get into them because, again, I don't have that type of time. Again, you guys go to the other podcasts to go and break down every single fight. That's not what I do. I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm gonna tell you what I think about it, and we're gonna move forward. What else happened? The Ratchet WBC decided to remove, or they're discussing removing in 2020, presser face-offs that are deemed a little ultra aggressive. The WBC always wants to put their fucking foot in there. They just always want to be there. I don't know, this even Mauricio Suleiman, whatever his fucking name is, I don't know, this is like the time that when they wanted to ban fathers from corners, just to turn around and give fathers a participation belt too. If anything, face-offs and those mouthing offs, I mean, they're big in the U.S. culture. Mexican Americans, black folks love doing it. So it's kind of a culture U.S. thing. Get it. You don't like it? Don't promote these type of fighters. But at the same time, don't go in there and parade your fucking hideous belts the next day, because is that okay to put at the press conference? Is it okay to put your ridiculously just hideous belts in front of us? Is that okay to be at the press? But no, not the fighter. Not a fighter. Not a guy that didn't go to school, didn't get any education, that doesn't know how else to interact, to have a conversation, but to be aggressive with each other. These guys are fighters. This is what they do. It's a pissing contest half the time. What happened with the Charlos is no difference than what happened with Mayorga and Vargas. It's normal. This is the way these guys express themselves. Sometimes it's physical. I get it. Don't allow these guys to get physical. Now they get physical, get fine. But if they get mouthy, they start talking shit to each other. It's okay. It sells a fight, and bigger fight means a bigger sanctioning fee. You know what we should ban again is Mauricio Suleiman getting on the stage, parading his ridiculous belt. Why don't we ban that? Why don't we ban those offshore WBC parties where they invite everybody? And why don't we ban something like that? Those fake benefits that you guys make, that you guys keep all the money. Why don't we ban that? You guys are full of shit. The WBC's always been full of shit. And I know I'll probably hear a little later somebody's going to complain about, you bash the WBC. No, I bash the WBC por pinche chismoso, because they're nosy, because they like putting their nose everywhere. It doesn't belong, guys. Mind your own fucking business. That's all. Nice and simple. All right. Moving on forward. Fights to look for this weekend. You know what? One of them is from the WBC. Somewhere in Virginia, the PBC found the most remote location they could possibly find because, well, fuck the fans. That's what they feel like. Why put it in? Why put it in a decent area? Why put it in Barclays when they can put it fucking Virginia? Why to comp the tickets to the military? I mean, that's why that's the only benefit I see from this. That's the only. I mean, that's when I think of Virginia, I think about Navy. But anyways, Jared Hurd versus Julian Williams. Good fight. I really like this fight. And again, this fight is going to be on Fox and Fox Deportes. Last time we saw Williams step up in competition was versus one of the two-headed monsters from the PBC, which was one of the Charlo brothers. Of course, Williams got dramatically knocked out. Do we get to see the same? Quite possibly, because Hurd is a monster. Hurd is a swift, no pun intended there, but a version of Margarito. I think he does a lot of exciting, he has a lot of exciting, intelligent, swiftly put aggression. And I think he's a special guy, a huge guy for 154, sort of like a Munguia. But he's a real deal. He's a legit champion. And I think this can only end bad for Williams. Now, is it going to be entertaining? Absolutely, it's going to be a great fight. It's a fight that I'm really looking forward to. But my prediction is Swift takes him out in 9-10 rounds. Now, Berchel versus Vargas 2, the rematch, actually goes back to the desert. It went from Fantasy Spring and in. I found a mistake. Yeah, it was in India, the first one. And it was through Golden Boy, but now it's actually through Top Rank. So Golden Boy's leasing out Vargas for the rematch. Now look, the first fight was a great fight, but it was a fight where Vargas ended up getting stopped. Now Vargas, we know, is not necessarily what he used to be, but Vargas is he cuts more than a teenage boy with daddy issues. His face is not out there. He cuts very easy. It's not a fight where you can say, okay, this is gonna be a evenly matched fight, sort of like Canelo Jacobs. No, but what it is gonna be, it's gonna be a bloodbath. You're gonna see a lot of blood. You're gonna see a stoppage, in my opinion, from Berchel towards Vargas. Again, Vargas is a nice kid. Vargas is a hell of a fighter, great warrior. But Vargas is and he's a punch throwing machine, man. He doesn't stop. He doesn't really stop, and he throws with conviction. So, not the strongest guy in the world, but he's a very honest. He does very honest work in there. So, as far as what do I see? I think Vargas is going to cut up. I think it's not going to be so much his face. He's going to get stopped. We're not going to blame this on cuts. I think Berchel doesn't want that. He doesn't want to, he can't continue to fight. He wants a fight where he's going to stop Vargas, and I think that's what I see. I think that's it as far as fights. Again, there's a lot of other smaller fights. There's fights on Showtime from Thompson and whatnot, but again, I'm not going to sit here and dwell on them. What I am going to sit here and look, every day before I do the podcast, I try to go online, especially on Instagram, and just to ask what questions you guys have, something that didn't get answered, something that, again, you guys just want my opinion. So I'm kind of going to go through it just very quick. And go through some of these questions again. My Instagram is at MrBoxingguru. So is my Twitter. And I have a Facebook page, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So kind of let's go with this. Of course, you got the usuals like LOLBoxing_memes. Says, is LOL Boxing Memes and Mas Chingon? Yes, absolutely. Guys, if you guys have Instagram, follow LOL Boxing Memes. He has a lot of great dubs that he do, especially Canelo. He does a lot of Golovkin when he's like, yes, Mox, please, and all that. So shout out to him. Okay, second, Going Postal 818 Ask, will Errol Spence Jr. go to fight Canelo? No, not anytime soon. Will he do eventually do it? Absolutely. I would really hope so. Remember, if we really pay attention, I think Canelo is the Heyman killer. Sort of like Manny Pacquiao was the Mexicutioner. He beat up all the Mexicans, and I think Canelo is beats up all the Heyman fighters. So somehow, somewhere, some way, they make their way into Canelo and beat him up. Khan, Heyman fighter. Chavez Jr. at the time, Heyman fighter. Danny Jacobs, Heyman fighter. Again, these are Trout Nation was Heyman fighter. So all these guys are Heyman fighters. Erislandy Lara, Heyman fighter. So somehow, some way, they all come around and they get their ass beat. Luke Casada 05 asked, your opinion on JG's new trainer. What's the positive about it and not so much? The positive about it, I guess you could say, or the reason why we're staying positive about it, it's because his new coach or his is from the school of Emmanuel Stewart, is from the Crunk school. I think that's what benefits him. How does it benefit him? I think longevity. I think everybody knows that Mexican style fighting creates shorter careers. Now, what can he possibly do? Jonathan Banks, I believe is his name, to help a guy like Golovkin, especially at this stage at his career. Well, Crunk and Emmanuel Stewart's helped Klitschko towards the later part of his career kind of perfect that jab and learn how to use his power, use his leverage a bit more. And in my opinion, that's very Europeanish to a certain extent, but it's something that's right up the alley with the way that Golovkin initially fought. Will it benefit him? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think versus fighting a guy like Rose is a great experimental process. But you never know. It might work out for him. Look, Banks is a very young trainer, and I think he's very good at what he does. And why not? I mean, I think he trains, breakers too. So, yeah, hopefully it works out for the best, Luke. Okay, my man, Juice goes to saludos a las tres, viejón. Right, and Turi always has a great question. Turi 805. If you guys don't know who Turi is, Turi used to work. He used to do the mitts and with a lot of Robert Garcia's fighter back when Robert Garcia was in Oxnard. So Turi _ 805 asks, who would you rather be right now, Spence or Crawford? Joshua, Wilder, or Fury? You know what? I think who would I personally want to be or rather be is Joshua. Look, Joshua, regardless of who he fights for a while, he comes with from that huge European background. He brings the fan. It's the Joshua show wherever he goes. Look, he's going to come across the pond and he's going to fill it out. There's going to be a lot of Brits. Regardless of who he fights, I think a lot of Brits might be turned off because they don't know Andy, the Snicker Destroyer. But nonetheless, they're gonna come. They're gonna kick ass in New York, and he is the man to be right now. As far as the other, I mean, Crawford. Look, Crawford is the odd guy looking out at the welterweight division. I think he was one of those guys that could have signed with PBC, so he could have done the Mikey Garcia route, and fought the right fights and gone to PBC, but he didn't. He stayed. He's making a lot of money, which is great. But he's looking for opponents. Now he's not necessarily getting any. So Fury to me signing with ESPN was just a big cop out. So I've never been a big fan of Fury. Spence is a good kid. I really like Spence. I think he's a solid fighter. But I mean, when he's already looking for excuse on who not to fight and why Crawford doesn't deserve the fight, well, that speaks on its own. And another question from Going Post 808. Why must Mexicans always put down Canelo for not fighting Mexican style? He's smart, subjecting himself to injury and prolonging his career. Look, Mexican style is I hate that word because look, Marquez fought one style, Vargas fought another, um, Chavez fought a different way, and Salvador Sanchez también. So many different styles to Mexican style that I really don't know what it is. I think people, if you go back maybe 10, 12 years ago and look the way um, a lot of Mexican fighters fought, you'll be pleasantly surprised that back then they called that brawling. Now we call it boxing. If the way Canelo bends his waist is the same way that Chavez Jr. used to bend his waist going in and going after fighters, and they used to call him a brawler. So things change, styles don't, and yeah, that's something else. Boxing Bros ask, Virgil looked great this past weekend. When will we see him when will we see him get a title shot? There's no hurry for that, in my opinion. Look, Virgil should ride as much as he can. He's only 12 fights in. I think a fighter should fight for a title no earlier than 20 fights in, and that's your normal fighter. And I don't think he's the exception. Blowing his load before that, it's not okay, in my opinion. They should prolong it as much as they can, at least 8 more fights. Yes, gradually step them up, but remember, a belt doesn't make the fighter. Yes, fight the best in that division, but not just yet. Keep him at 140. I personally don't even think he's going to get a belt at 140. I think if he gets a belt at 147, he's a big kid for 140 pounds. So I do see him moving up in weight. Let's see, who else? Call out the biggest trolls. No. Let's see, who else? I think one guy said, and there's always a funny guy. Alonzo21G says, name the top 5 clout chasers. And I think we kind of went back and forth on it. Again, I didn't dwell on it. But clout chasers. 1, Golovkin this past weekend. He made a press conference where? In Las Vegas. Talk about his new trainer. Why? Because there was press in Vegas. That's clout. That's chasing something that's already there. That's going after somebody's fame. And everybody knew that all the media was already in Vegas. So why not clout chase Canelo? Canelo said it himself. He's already there. Canelo's a big fan of him. He's somehow always around his fight. So that to me is a clout. 2 or 4, I guess. You can say, Americanelo, that motherfucker, man. I'm telling you, that Americanelo guy, that's the biggest clout chaser. Not only does he always get kicked out, but he somehow always tries to emulate some sort of outfit that Canelo's wearing and somehow puts himself into the fight. That guy is bad for boxing. He does not belong anywhere near a boxing event. All he's going to do is talk about how much weed he smokes. Again, there's nothing wrong with talking about weed. But there is something wrong mentally with a guy that tries to imitate another person. There's something wrong mentally, and shit is just not right. Americanelo, one of the biggest clout chasers. Yes, and I'll say it again. Ryan Garcia, the biggest clout chaser. He was able to clout himself into Canelo camp. He was able to clout himself into having millions of people follow him, and he clouts himself into putting himself against the Cobra bag or whatnot. Yes, he is a clout chase. That's how you clout chase. He showed you how to do it. He put the blueprint. Now a lot of these other kids are doing it. So yeah, that's another clout chaser. Another one, Lalo's Boxing. Clout chaser, always looking to piss people off. I actually like Lalo though. But this is what these guys do. This is how they, I don't know if it's financially rewarding for them, but this is how these guys get following. A follower. You guys know me. I don't have all my followers, I think, are hardcore boxing fans. I don't really post a lot of stuff. I post stuff to make each other laugh, but I mean that's it. But I think Lalo is a clout chaser, and nothing wrong with that in his aspect, because all he's trying to do is get likes. Let's see. So that's 3. 2 more. And this is generalizing. All those guys that have all these social media accounts that post at a certain time, that post, they have schedules of what to post. That's clout. That's, you guys are asking for following. Show me how your day is. Tell me how your family is. Show me you're a human being, not a fucking bot just having to post about pictures. Lando's probably won, always fucking fighting with people. And let's see who else. And lastly, guess you could say a guy like Ali Setback, always looking for the story, always looking for an angle, always doing the weaselly, slimy way to get a story and to try to get an angle on something and try to get people to like his views. I get it. That's what they do. Again, I see nothing wrong with it. That's just them. What else? But that's it. I mean, I don't really care about these folks. That's from what I see. That's what it is. Let's see. What did Bully Squad say? Bully Squad says, I'm not saying Andy Ruiz will beat Anthony Joshua, but I think he'll give him a tough fight. I'm surprised a lot of people who think AJ is going to smash Andy in 2 rounds. I just wish Andy could have a full camp, not on short notice. What's your take? Look, the great thing about being a heavyweight is that you don't necessarily need a big camp. The thing is, yes, it's a short camp, but at the same time, we also have to see he just peaked not long ago. He just won a fight 2 weeks ago, and he went the very next day back into camp. Now remember, heavyweights, unlike regular fighters that have to cut weight and whatnot, they don't have to go through those sacrifices. I think that's probably 30% of the sacrifice in most weight classes, cutting weight and making sure you're at that weight class for about 5 hours, which is all you need to be at that, at the weight limit. You don't see it. Heavyweights and Andy Ruiz should not have a problem at all. And like you said, Bully Squad, is he going to beat him? No, probably not. Is he going to give him a fight? Yes, I have a feeling that a guy like Andy Ruiz can catch Anthony Joshua slipping, maybe not beat him, but he is going to stun him a couple of times. He's gonna make him work. And if he doesn't, that it's not a knock on the fight being on short notice. That's just going to be a testament of how great a guy like Anthony Joshua is. One other question that I seen earlier was from Pound for Pound Vic and Cat. It is really Vic that's asking the question. I don't think it's his wife. He says, as a non-Mexican, explain this to me. Does Pee Drinking Marquez hate Canelo Alvarez so much, or why does Pee Drinking Marquez hate Canelo so much? Again, I think I kind of went over this, Vic, and I'm sorry about that because I wanted to answer your question here. The reason why Mr. Pee Marquez, Mr.
Bueno, estamos tomando pura agüita mineral aquí de los miados.
The reason why he has it's a class thing. I don't know if you guys have it in Puerto Rico, where the light skinned Puerto Ricans make fun of the dark skinned Puerto Ricans. But in Mexico it's like that. Is the indigenous folks, the apocalypto looking folks, I guess you could say, so to a certain extent, don't really like the lighter and vice versa. I think it's a very ugly way of thinking from all of us that are Mexican, but unfortunately that does happen. I think the only time a lot of Mexicans stick together it's when tragedy strikes, and I think that's very horrible of us as a whole. But that's what it is. It's just a class thing with them. Guys, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys like every week. Please continue to subscribe, listen. Really enjoy all you guys' feedback. If you guys drill me, at the end of the week when you guys listen to it, it's good. I don't care. As long as you guys listen to it, enjoy it, give me your feedback. Remember, this podcast is for you. It's for the fans, by the fans. I'm a boxing fan. I'm not media. I'm just someone giving my 2 cents. Guys, with that said, this has been the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. Thank you for joining me today. Yeah, hasta luego. Los demás de la acordada de aquellos se sorprendieron. Si quieren pueden matarme, que yo ya vengué a mis viejos. Dicen que lo fusilaron, otros que se fue muy lejos.